Guys, so of course, today is April Fool's, or at least when the video will be released, will be April Fool's, and we'll be doing what if the strongest and weakest countries are swapped. So the Vatican City and its 800 people will be swapped with the United States. And immediately, what would happen if the United States and Vatican City swap places? So the Vatican City will quickly realize that they only have 800 people in a country that is basically an entire continent. Yep, this includes Hawaii and Puerto Rico as well. Hawaii and Puerto Rico will also be a part of the Vatican City, which means their populations will be swapped with the United States. What would happen immediately is everybody who lived in the United States cannot fit in a country that is within Rome. That is physically impossible. And the first thing that would happen would be a massive refugee crisis of around 340 million people. And some people think there might be more with people from within rural areas that are unaccounted for, and illegal migrants that are not counted for either. This could mean potentially up to 350 million people added to the European population, which would create one of the biggest population crises in European history as well here. Rome would basically try to cut off, Italy would try to cut off this year. This would be the USA containment zone. That San Marino will also move its borders up to here to be away from the USA containment zone as well. As there's just these 350 million random people here, they don't know who these people are, and they're just stuck here as well. Here. Meanwhile, the Vatican City, they literally have only 800 people spread throughout the entirety of the United States. This will cause Mexico and Canada to be like, hey, this is free land. And because the Vatican City's military is so weak, because there's only 800 people in the Vatican, this basically Canada gets free land as well here. Giving Canada free land as well here. The Vatican City does send like a few people to fight back, but Canada, they really don't send any people in because there's like no people now in the United States because they swapped places with the Vatican City. So basically the Mexico and Canada got a lot of land out of this. Canada got this will gain all of this from the United States. Mexico will regain back the former territories, and basically Mexico will make a deal with Europe to send a lot of the people that were from Mexico to these territories, obviously, as well here, because there was no people living here. There had, before the states become abandoned. So basically, Mexico and Canada make a deal with, at least with people from Canada and Mexico who are the United States, that they can come back and reclaim these lands here. They do, and basically, Mexico will gain around 40 million people, and Canada will gain around 2 million people, because there aren't really many Canadians here as well here. However, Canada will also get immigration from Asia as well here, to also fill in for the people who live here as well here. Meanwhile, the crisis in Europe has been shot down by at least 42 million people. However, there's still around 308 million people living in this small area as well here. Making this one of the most populated and dense areas in the world. However, the European Union will create a new treaty to house these remaining people as well here. The remaining US people. However, some countries like Poland and Hungary will oppose this as well here. Also, some people do flee to Northern Africa and the Middle East as well here. This will cause a massive refugee crisis for these countries as well here. Also, countries like Australia and New Zealand are also going to take in refugees from these basically the teleporting American and Vatican citizens. Also, the Vatican City will take in a few million refugees, so there isn't 0 people living here. Vatican City will now have around 3 million people living in it as well here. Also, a lot of the people. Also, Hawaii will gain its independence as a country, and a lot of the Hawaiians will just leave back to Hawaii as well here. You know, however, the big refugee crisis in the Europe has kind of been solved. However, many of these countries gain around 40 million. Like France gains 40 more million people. Spain gets around 4 million people. Germany gets around 60 million people. UK gets around 50 million people. And Ireland gets around 15 to 20 million. The Nordic countries gain a couple of tens of millions of people as well here. And Italy still gains at least 30 to 40 million people. As well, even places like Iceland gain a couple million more people as well here. However, this population, has the American cultures. However, the American cultures will kind of replace the European cultures, which will cause concerns with the European citizens as well here, as they do not really like this idea. They want the people from the United States to go back to the United States. They don't want the people here in Europe as well. However, the Americans have kind of integrated pretty well into the European countries as well here. Although some of them even go into like the Middle East, like Turkey or even Iran, or the other area that kind of has accepted a lot of refugees is the Middle East, especially the Arabian Peninsula, because basically these countries have already been built on expats from other countries, and they gradually taken tens of millions of people from the former United States because it's free labor for these countries basically as well here. However, countries like China, Korea, and Japan accept very little immigration from these refugees as well here. So this is what would be a catastrophic thing that would happen if the United States and Vatican City swapped. I do think a couple million would probably come back to the Vatican City, but the thing is, they are basically teleported back here. And basically, let's go back to real life and teleport both the Vatican and the United States populations back to where they were as well here. And happy April Fools. And never swap Vatican City and the United States population.